Welcome to the Digital Golfer Podcast, where we unlock the power of technology and data. From tips to performance insights, we talk to coaches and players about how tech is changing the game.
Hello, and welcome to the Perform 72 podcast. We spend a lot of time on this podcast exploring strategies and people shaping the future of golf coaching. And today we're diving into fitness. And I'm thrilled to introduce someone who's played a key role in shaping the way Perform 72 is working. And that is Anja Taljaard. Anja, how are you?
I'm good, Jeff. How are you?
All good. So you're a strength and conditioning coach, movement
Yeah.
expert. You've been doing our fitness assessments and our training programs in Perform 72, but you do all sorts of other stuff. You're South African, and you were working in a hospital at looking after recovery, physical recovery. So tell me, because I'm not explaining very well, tell me what you do.
Basically, my degree was a bachelor's in human movement science and physiology. So I had a big interest in the human body and how it functions. And I did a postgraduate in something called biokinetics. Not a lot of people know what it is, but it is basically, you know how you go to a doctor and they treat you with medicine, or you go to a homeopath and they treat you with herbal medicine. You come to me and I treat you with movement. So bio means life and kinetic means movement. So um, you can then further go into clinical, which is like if you've had strokes or if you have diseases like cancer, stuff like this, or you can go orthopedic. I chose the orthopedic route. So dealing with injuries or preventing injuries. I worked in a hospital, Mediclinic in South Africa, where I also worked with a rugby team, a bunch of different sports, so water polo, rugby, hockey, netball. Basically
And
just
now golf.
preventing, and now golf, exactly. Just preventing injuries, but more than that, also looking at the cause of why things are going wrong in the body and then fixing that to optimize
Brilliant.
movement, basically.
I think that's a perfect segue into sort of the first question. So when you and I first met, you weren't necessarily a specialist in golf, and you'd probably say you're not now, but your sort of broad experience across sports. I remember one of the first things you said to me was that, listen, movement is movement, and there are some specifics for each sport, of course, but the core components of movement are the same. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So I am not a golfer, but I do understand any form of movement and I understand the human body really well. So, like you said, there's a fundamental pattern of movement for every human being, and there's certain things in life that will affect that movement, whether it's us having a desk job, us driving, the way we sleep, the way we move, and all these daily factors is affecting the way our fundamental movement will be. And this fundamental movement then goes into our sports that we play. So even though I don't necessarily play golf, I understand movement and what's needed in the human body to optimize your golf.
Brilliant. And you've taught me so much stuff. I mean, it's been a couple of years now that we've been talking about this and building our programs in Perform 72. You taught me a lot about the structure of the way we should approach this, our stability, mobility, the pillars that we should be looking at. Explain to us a little bit about why those pillars are important, why they happen in a particular sequence, and how that benefits you from a physical point of view.
Like I said, we have the fundamentals and how our daily will work into that and how our daily will affect that. So if you, as a golfer, the way you sleep, the way you move, things like this will affect your range of motion, your pelvic stability, things like this. So how we look at this from Perform 72, how we will look at you is first of all how you move fundamentally and how this movement will then affect your golf. And when we look at those things, we look at your stability, your joint stability, your flexibility, your mobility, your strength. And these core components will then play into further things that is needed in golf, like your power, explosive power, things like this.
And really what we're trying to do is get a golfer to create repeatable, efficient movements, aren't we?
Absolutely.
And nobody will, we won't get two humans that are the same. So an assessment is important to look for those deficiencies. I mean, in the stability mobility area, for example, one of the simple tests we may do is standing on one leg, for example, to see whether a player can actually stabilize themselves, test their ankle strength and all of those sorts of things. So we really start with stability mobility, don't we?
Absolutely. It's so important. And we also look at small niche things like eye dominance, because eye dominance has an effect in how you rotate your head, and the way you rotate your head has an effect on your thoracic mobility. So it has this knock-on effect on everything else. So we try and look at the small details that will affect the big movements later on.
Great. And we know in the golf industry there are some leaders in this area of doing golf assessments. TPI in particular have done a lot of work and done some great work. But again, one of the things you taught me is that a lot of this is very industry standard, the functional movements. There's been an enormous amount of work done over the years, which you call on, which is standard, FMS type activities. And that's what we're starting to use in Perform 72, and anybody can use that.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think what TPI has done is amazing, and incorporating the typical FMS structure into their assessments is great. And most sporting profiles, if we look any type of sport, they will actually incorporate their FMS. But what we've seen is that there's a lot of the same movements and same assessments that gives the same value and the same result. And so what we're trying to create is something a bit more simplified, where one assessment shows the coach enough details to help the athlete. We don't need 6 different movements to show the same result. And also, like I said, for instance, hip flexors. Hip flexors are tight in 90% of the population. I can almost guarantee that every single person that's going to do a hip flexor test or a hip mobility test is going to fail that test. We don't need 7 different tests to show this one movement, This also it gives the player the idea of, oh my goodness, I've got so much to work on, there's so much to change. It's one thing that you need to change. It's going to have a big effect. So what we're trying to do is just make the assessment a little bit more niche, so that we don't set ourselves up for failure, and it makes it easy for the coach as well to incorporate for future.
Yeah. And, as we sort of touched on earlier on, they come in a sequence. So when we get somebody come through the door and wants an assessment, we've really got to make sure that they can stabilize first, that they can move correctly before we start applying power, speed, strength. Tell me a little bit more about that sequence of making sure we do it in the right order.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So I've spoken to so many golfers, and I asked them the same thing. What do you want to improve in your golf? And most of them would say either there's power of their swing, or their short game, like putting and stuff like that. But when we speak about power in your golf swing, we need to take it back like a few steps before we can get there, because otherwise you're going to get the injuries, like the back injuries, the knee injuries that's so common in golf, So we need to make sure that your pelvic stability is strong enough, that you are mobile enough, so that when you go into setting up for a golf swing, for instance, that you are setting up in the right way, because it's a continuous movement. If you're going to spend hours of your day practicing a golf swing and then go into your games and competitions and things like this, it's a repetitive movement over and over and over again. So if your fundamentals, like your stability and your mobility, is not good, it's guaranteed you're going to get an injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see so many golfers come through my academy that can't stand on one leg, and then wonder why they can't play well. Or I also see a lot of people that come who have done a lot of gym work, and they're very strong,
Yeah,
but they lack the mobility. They can't rotate,
absolutely.
or they can't stabilize all that power that they've generated. So
Exactly.
so it's taken us a while in Perform 72 to think this through, but what you've done now is you've created these assessments, and you can now help a coach who may not be a fitness professional, let's just call that out, to at least get an initial assessment of a player's stability, mobility, strength, power, and speed by
Absolutely.
using some basic measurements. And at that point, that coach can maybe modify the way they're teaching or can pass the player onto a fitness specialist, a PT, to help them work through things. So tell me about the assessment specifically, maybe the components of the stability mobility assessment, and then the exercises you put together, for example.
So as a coach, we want to help the coach go down to the cause of why this person is moving a certain way. So we know he's lacking mobility in a backwards if he's setting up, for instance, for going into a swing. We want the coach to go back to the cause of why, where is this person lacking? Is it mobility? Is it actually stability coming from your pelvis? Things like this. So yes, we made it very easy for the coach to assess different aspects. We go from head to toe, basically, and we look at rotation, we look at different mobility movements, and all these different movements. It's not very isolated movements because golf is not an isolated sport. So the assessments that we have put together is sport specific in a way, but there's also a lot of things that is just general life. Like you said, for instance, standing on one leg. Most people can't stand on one leg with their eyes closed. It's proprioception. But proprioception is so needed, for instance, in your golf. So we're just trying to create something that the coach can go back to do the assessment, but then also see how you've improved. So as you go on, if your athlete has taken this course and they've done 2 or 3 months of constant training, getting the fundamentals right, if you reassess the same assessment, we want to see improvement. We want to see that, yes, actually, I was right. In the assessment, I did see that this person is lacking pelvic stability. We fixed it over the past 3 months, and now we can finally move on to power because his pelvis is strong enough to support his back.
Yeah, I think it's so nice to hear you talk about the improvement element. Obviously, Perform 72 is about how we go through an improvement process over time. And that, I see lots of people do assessments. TPI connects the swing fundamentals to the limitation that a player has, which is a great first step. But how do we go about improving those areas of weakness? And like you say, let's come back and do an assessment in 3 months' time and see how far you've moved forwards. Now you've put together about 140 exercises, male and female, using simple equipment to start off with, and that sits in our app, and you can drag those programs onto your player's profile after you've done the assessment. Tell us a little bit more about those exercises, because when I saw you do them, most people head to the gym, and I do the same, and I get on the machine and then I go do a chest press, and then I go do an arm curl and everything else. When you first put those 140 exercises together for me, I thought, wow, none of those use any of that equipment. So talk us through some of those and why that's important.
Yeah, so going on doing a chest press is great, and it's great for pec strength, for instance, but we had to look at different ways of how to make movement functional for golf. This is more golf specific, but movement specific in general. You never just use your elbow. Like, for instance, you as an example that just said you'll do bicep curls, for instance, which is one single joint, your elbow. Where in life will you only use your elbow and only use your bicep? Your body move as a unit. So all the exercises that we've added onto the app, it's very easy, by the way, because it's drag and drop. So it's very easy for the coach to drag all into one program. Let's say the athlete is lacking thoracic mobility. You can type into the app thoracic mobility, and there will be a bunch of exercises that you can then clearly go just drag and drop. So it makes it really easy, first of all, for the coach and for the athlete to understand. But the movements and the exercises that we added is yes, they are the typical that will help with strength, and strength is needed for power, and power is needed in, for instance, your swing. But it's more than that. It's the body moving as a unit, and how can you get your core to stabilize while your knee is bending, while your shoulder is doing something, for instance. Like we're just trying to create different ways that your body can work as a unit that will then help you in your golf.
Yeah, and it's it's quite a challenge getting out onto the practice green. Chipping and putting is probably the last thing most people do in golf. They like to go to the range and smash balls as hard as they can, sort of thing. And I see the same thing in the fitness area. I like, when people do get the one or two opportunities to go to the gym, they go straight to the equipment. But that isn't, as you've just explained, that isn't the way it works. And finding some constancy in performing the exercises that you've created does take a little while. But the difference that I've seen is enormous. Simple things like, for me, trying to get external shoulder rotation. So doing the wall angels on a regular basis, for example, that really has, in the golf swing, that's given me the ability to get more external shoulder rotation. And please correct me if I'm using the wrong terms here. And
No,
then
that's
that
exactly.
allows me to shallow the club better and have more of an into out swing. Now the golf pro understands that, and you've understood it so beautifully in the app to make sure that those exercises are very, very specific.
Yeah,
Um,
the problem in today's life, because there's so many things that's lacking due to the fact that we are sitting more, we are driving more, we are not moving as much. We've got a gardener and a driver and a cook. Not everyone, but our lifestyle is completely different than it was in the past. So we're not moving as we used to move in the past. With this comes overcompensation. So like you just said, with the external rotation of your shoulder, most people, when they external rotate their shoulder, they'll compensate by doing it with their back. So what we try to create is taking away the compensation and making sure that the movements that we are doing is actually the correct movement, because there's so many exercises that you can do out there, and if you do them completely wrong, all you're doing is you're fueling the wrong muscles, which is what we don't want. So we're trying to take away that compensation to make sure that you do the movements correctly.
yeah, yeah, and to me, it was a real eye opener to work with you for a while and understand, how we can do sort of the inline core assessments, where we're trying to maintain our balance and rotate at the same time, in a kneeling position, for example. It's unbelievably difficult, even for top golfers, to
Yeah,
to try and get into the lunge position, um, in line, knee, feet, both feet in line, and rotate. Um, and everybody falls over, and then they say, "Wow, why can't I do that?" And to me, that's just such a big eye opener,
that's
into the weaknesses that people who've played golf for years still have. Yeah.
it's so true. I'm working with an athlete at the moment. He's a rugby player, and if you think of squats and deadlifts and all these things, these guys are in the hundreds. They are
Mm.
extremely strong. I took this guy and we did the heaviest piece of equipment that we use was a 10-kilogram dumbbell. And we
Yeah.
did these fundamental movements, and it's the movements that are in the app, to be honest. And this guy was shaking like a leaf, and he was so extremely weak. He could not do 10 reps in a row.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
shows you that the small muscles, the stabilizing muscles, the muscles that should be responsible for making sure that you won't get hurt in the future and just making your movement more efficient is not working. So
Yeah.
it's quite funny to see, like I said, even the most professional golfers will struggle with the fundamentals because we don't address these.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's been the big eye opener to me. There's I don't know whether this is related at all, and we may cut this out, but there's a wonderful video on YouTube of a cleaner wandering around a gym when all these guys are
I love
power
this guy.
lifting ridiculous weights, and he's got this 35 kg mop. Um, he's half their size and lifts twice the weight, and I think that's probably the sort of what we're talking about here. If you develop correctly, if you do the right things, the return on investment is significant, isn't it?
That's so true.
Yeah,
I love this
and he's
guy.
so he's so funny, isn't he? He's probably made a few quid off YouTube as well, doing the same
Yeah.
thing. So, so I think you've explained beautifully sort of the dynamic exercises. We're in the process now of taking golfers, as you said earlier on. You know, people want speed when they come to you. They talk about speed and power. So once we've got that stability, mobility, we've done the functional movements, we've got the small muscles, the stabilizing muscles, we've got the rotation and everything else sorted, then we can start to squat and and really put some power in. What's sort of the in your experience, what's the powerhouse of the golf swing from a power point of view? Where are you trying to develop that power in a golfer?
Well, your posterior chain is incredibly important. So
Yeah,
hamstrings, glutes, even your lower back. Lower back is a area that most people avoid because they think lower back equals injury, but your lower back gets a lot of injuries because your lower back is all weak and
yeah,
tight. So your whole posterior chain, and then also your body works in slings. So right hand to left foot, for instance, left hand to right foot. We're trying to get you strong in the different slings because this is how you're going to generate power into your swing. Upper body is very important. But for me, I think if you can load your body, the whole loading of that power is going to come from your posterior chain and through your legs. And then, of course, you need your core to be strong enough to do this explosive movement while supporting it. Um, yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So we've worked with another coach, Joel, who was a pro golfer in Dubai. Um, I mean, this guy's a bit of a monster, isn't he, in the gym?
Yeah, he's so big, he's so strong, and but moves so well. I'm super impressed with how well he moves.
Yeah, absolutely. So Joel's in the process of well, he's put a lot of the exercises together with you already, and as we move forwards, we'll be using coaches that have experience with those sides, with the golf side specifically as well, to continue to develop our exercises and our programs. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. He's such a machine when it comes to these things because he was and is a golfer. He understands a little bit more as well the depth that's needed in terms of power and strength for a golf swing. So it's I think the two of us working together is just quite a powerhouse because we can I can incorporate the full body movement and he can create the explosiveness and the power behind it. So it's quite fun.
brilliant. Yeah, I mean, it's as I say, it's been a great experience. So tell us a little bit about a golf coach comes into Perform 72, has maybe never understood this or done an assessment. Tell me what advice you'd give to the coach. How far can the coach go if they don't have formal training, and how much can we help them, or how much can the app help them to move forwards with the player, for example?
So on the app, there's when you look at the assessment, and whether this is going to be for power, strength, or the fundamental, there's going to be different options to show you how, like from weak to good, for instance. So as the coach looks at his athletes, he can then see the scoring system more or less on where he thinks his athlete is. So we're not just putting a number 0 to 10, rate the guy. We're also showing an example of more or less what should be happening if you're excellent or what should be happening when you're bad. So that the coach is guided a lot in this sense. Also, on the app there will be videos of me as a biomechanics expert explaining when you do the assessment as a coach, what do you need to look for? So if you have zero formal training in any form of biomechanics, I will then tell you when we do an inline lunge rotation, this is what we look at. We look at X, Y, and Z. As a coach, when you assess the guy, look at X, Y, and Z. And then we're scoring according to this. So it really makes it easy for the coach to understand. If the coach feels that they are out of depth and they don't know what they are doing, or they feel like they need a little bit more advice or help, we will be on standby as well. So from the app side, for instance, myself will be there to do consultations or to help or to step in if the coach feels that they don't have the professional background that they need for the assessment. So there are
Yeah.
different options for sure, how comfortable the coach feels to do the assessments on these athletes.
Yeah. And I think there's a couple of things to point out. One is that each coach, we're not sort of a mass market app that will be used by millions of coaches, for example, or hundreds of thousands of coaches. And when a coach signs up to work with us, they get a CMS, or a customer services manager, CSM, sorry. And the CSM, you can call on that CSM and say, hey, listen, I need some help in this area. Do you have a coach you can connect me to? And as the app grows, then we'll also have fitness coaches. So we have the ability to add a fitness coach and attach that to the player, as well as an instructional coach. So you can start to build a virtual team if required, and have that fitness person develop the programs. I think the other thing you've done is that you can collect a group of exercises together and put those into routines, can't you? So the
Exactly.
app
So
has individual exercises and routines. So just explain that to us.
yeah, so as a coach, you can go and select your own individual exercises and create your own program, which is available for you via drag and drop. But then if you feel like you're not comfortable enough with programming or understanding the micro, meso, macro cycles of things, there will be preloaded programs on as well. As an example, for instance, if your athlete has an injury and I specialize, for instance, in rehab, there will be preloaded exercises on there for rehab. There will be a knee rehab, a back rehab, whatever, whatever, whatever. So you as a coach can then go and you have the freedom and the option to choose as you like, whether you create your own programs or if you take one of our programs and then give that, because we are the professionals in a specific field. So you have best of both.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it will give them the flexibility. I know, lots of coaches have been through TPI. Lots of them now are getting into the fitness business. So this is also, the opportunity for them to take the next step, or to add a fitness coach to their environment. But as you said right at the start, this is about measuring improvement. So the first assessments, the reason we do assessments is to create a baseline.
Yeah.
And then that baseline is something then we can create targets against, cycles, development cycles and improvement cycles against, and really measure the players' physical results associated with their results out on the course as well. So we're also in the app, obviously, taking stuff from wearables. So I notice you're wearing is that an Aura ring you're wearing?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So we can actually take the data from the Aura ring and bring that in and build scenarios where we're connecting your sleep recovery, HRV results, measurement of your nervous system at a high level, and compare that to how your fitness is going, or how your performance on the course is going.
And this is such an important element, because these things have such an effect on our life. To give you an example, I have one girl that is in air traffic control. So she works shifts. We look at her aura ring. She's got an aura ring as well. We look at her aura ring before every single session and determining how she is mentally, physically, how she slept, like you said, HRVs, things like this, because all of these will have an effect on your performance. We wanna groom you the best we can to be the best you can the day you need it. So it doesn't help that we do the explosive stuff, the heavy lifting stuff on a day that you've had bad sleep or your body temperature is up and you might be fighting a virus. So the fact that we are incorporating the wearables is really important.
Yeah, I mean, every day there's a scenario. I mean, I was asked to look after a team of young players going off to play in the biggest events of their lives not so long ago. And I asked one of the girls to share her Garmin data with me, and she was getting 4 hours sleep a night. When she got to the tournament, she performed terribly, because she was turning up to practice. She was on the range every single day. She was panic practicing and getting 4 hours sleep because she was preparing for the tournament, but was trying to do her homework as well.
That's
So
detrimental.
simple things like that. And my Garmin told me this morning that my recovery was 2.
Aye.
I did I did a big gym session yesterday, and in the past I would have thought, oh, I feel okay, I'm going to head to the gym again. But it's giving you that insight that we've never had before, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's comprehensive data as well. It's not just specific. It looks at a bunch of different elements and
Yeah,
gives you a score more comprehensively. So it's not only your heart rate that is high, it's affecting everything else. So it's
yeah,
great. I love these wearables.
yeah. So do I. And you go see the doctor now, and I've seen doctors say, "Let me take a look at that," because the Garmin data's okay.
Yeah,
Garmin
absolutely.
Garmin have launched an ECG on their watch not so long ago, and the doctors look at the traces and say, "Yeah, that's pretty good," what it's
Absolutely.
doing. So,
I just love it. For instance, I'm a triathlete and I used to wear my Garmin and live on my Garmin app all the time, checking my
yeah,
data, seeing where I'm at, whatever. So it's really good and
yeah,
accurate.
absolutely. Yeah, and I think this is really where we're trying to get to with the Perform 72 app. If we can have an holistic view, there is nothing out there at the moment that takes the fitness elements, that takes the on-course performance elements, that takes um, the wearable data and allow you to do things at the right time. Now, some coaches are thinking, I don't need all this functionality in the app, right? Which is fine. Don't use it. You can go in and you can look at your front dashboard and you can add your scores. But if you want to build a long-term relationship with your golf coach and with your PT, this is the way to do it, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So it's been a pleasure chatting to you as usual. We get to do this every week, which I love, and I learn so much. Um, we're going to get the app out fairly soon. It's already in beta. We've got coaches on board already. You're working on adding programs all the time. What's next for you in the app? What's the thing that you want to get done in the app next?
I think I want to put all our attention now on the strength and explosive power and how that really is going to affect your goal. It's one thing to go from a bench press of 60 kilograms to 100 kilograms. What does it mean? What does it mean
Yeah,
in the life that you do? So I really want to focus in on what is really needed to get you to play better golf, strength and explosive power wise, because we've got the fundamentals sorted. That's now done. That's the crappy work as well as an athlete. You
yeah,
don't want to be doing all these balancing, whatever stuff in the gym. The typical stuff that your physiotherapist will give you that you never do, right?
yeah,
Sorry, it's a bit loud. Um, that's the crappy stuff. Now we are going to start working on the nice stuff, the stuff that you're really, really going to see normative data and improvements in your golf.
yeah. Great. And we're already pulling things like launch monitor data, which tells us how fast the player is, how fast they're swinging the club. We can measure things like swing sticks to see how fast they're swinging, but we can also run a 12-month cycle or a 12-week cycle, and we can check whether we're getting any extra distance or whether the work we're doing in the gym is actually impacting mobility or changing the biomechanics of the swing and slowing us down.
Yeah,
So this is the
exactly.
first time we can correlate the two things together in a golf app, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the beauty of sports science lately. The fact that there are so many scientific ways of to get normative data, to see your
Yeah,
swing speed, to see your the force plays. There's so many different things that gives you the data. So for the first time, we can really see, oh yes, the strength training that I'm doing is actually improving my golf.
yeah,
The little crappy balancing exercise that I'm doing is actually affecting the way I move. So that's great. It's
yeah.
exciting.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, Anja. Lots of exciting things ahead. It's an evolution and it's a relationship we've got to build with the coach. We need the coaches on board talking to us, asking us questions. We'll add features and functions as the coaches come on board. But it's great to have you on the team with all your experience. And I look forward to some of the stuff you're going to be adding into the app over the next few months.
No, thanks, man. Yeah, thanks. It's really exciting. I'm glad to be part of it. And we really just want to help the coaches get better results. So super exciting.
That's it. Let's improve people.
Yeah,
Incremental gains every single day. That's what we're looking for.
That's it. That's it.
Have a lovely day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jeff. Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.